First thing I'm going to say is I do not recommend this dehydrator if you're just going to be making jerky. It just can't reach the proper temps required by the FDA. So I'm getting ready to make my first batch of jerky with it and try here. And this is back to the beginning. I'm using this Cabelas marinade, and I have everything been washed up real good. And with the spices, it says, or with the jerky gun, it says to add a half cup of water per pound of meat. So I'm going to have to add that. And the Cabelas package came with enough to make 15 pounds of jerky. So I just, took one pack out of that for 5 pounds of each, the cure and the seasonings. And I'm getting my water ready. And just kind of putting all the washed pieces back together to get ready to fill up the jerky gun here. And it's, it's a real easy assembly and everything. And I did get another tube without a dent in it, and everything works good now. So I went down to Costco and picked up this is about a 6.39 pound piece of meat, and I need 5 pounds. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove about 1.39 pounds of meat here for putting that away for chili tomorrow. So I'm just going to take that and put it in a bowl and put it back in the refrigerator. And this is a fairly lean meat that we get at Costco, so I feel comfortable using it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, you have to use a glass bowl when you're using a cure. You can't do that in any kind of a metal bowl for the mixing, so I'm just taking one of my wife's old Corningware bowls there, and it's going to cut open the seasoning packet there, and I'm going to add half of that to the first half of the meat. And then I'm going to put the cure in. Now I'm going to say that seeing how this has cure in it, it's the only reason that I'm consuming these pieces of jerky that I made without any additional heat treatment. But in the long run, the dehydrator just couldn't reach safe temperatures for jerky, especially jerky made with ground beef. So there I go. I'm going to put the other half in and then mix it up. And just keep mixing it. I mixed it for about 10 minutes and kept adding water. And, they said to get it to about a toothpaste consistency. And that's what it comes out as when you add the amount of water they tell you to. So I just kept mixing it. And it starts getting to be a real gooey mess here. And, rubber gloves are definitely required when you're dealing with raw meat like this. So the fun part of the job turned out being trying to fill this jerky gun up, because you got this really super gooey mixture now with the water and the spices and the cure and everything in it. And you're trying to push it down this little hole into the gun, and there's also air pockets that get trapped in there just due to the the nature of the hamburger that you're pushing down there. So that was about the most time consuming part. Plus you actually need like a third hand for doing this. You got that little plunger there that you have to push it down every once in a while, and have to keep adding meat and putting more in. So I actually just kind of clamped it between my legs there to hold it while I was filling it. But really would be nice to have some kind of a stand to fill this thing on and make it a lot easier. And that was really the biggest part of getting this whole thing to work, was getting all the getting that packed full. And it did hold a little bit less than a pound of meat, I think, or right around a pound, because actually I put all that water in there. So I did wind up filling it up 6 times before I was done. And each time I filled it up, I'd do a rack, and there would be a little bit left in there for, but I didn't want to go on to the next rack. So like this silicone gasket and the nozzle. I'm just using the single nozzle now because this is my first try. I do have a double nozzle with it too. But you just have to, get the gasket in place and screw everything together tight. And you're good to go to make jerky. Now all these racks I had washed them previously, so they're just stacked there on the stove next to me. And this is actually my first time attempt with this gun. And it really does work nice. I'm pretty surprised. The meat mixture is really soft with all that water in it, but I think next time I'll just add a little bit less water to it. But you can see it really does work good. It does sink down a little bit into the wire grids there, so but it's really not that bad. It sticks together good, and works really great. So for now, I'm just gonna space these things about an inch apart, inch and a half apart on here. I don't want to pack them too tight. With 12 shelves, I figure you don't have to worry about space. Plus, extra space between them would probably help them dry more evenly. So in the end, I wound up filling up actually 6 of these racks, and then just 2 strips on another rack. So I had plenty of room, and I could have easily fit 10 pounds of ground meat in there if I wanted to. So it really does help to have somebody sitting there with a scissor to cut them, because you just can't pull it apart at the end. You kind of have to cut it otherwise you just rip everything apart and make a mess. But you could see this gun really did. I mean, I'm so glad I bought this gun. It just did a fantastic job. And about the worst part, was going back and trying to fill it each time. But that can be expected when you're dealing with a messy meat like this. And after having tried several sticks of this jerky, I can say that this seasoning was really it's perfect for my wife and I. We really do like it. It's not too spicy, and it's not very hot, and it's just really a great flavor for jerky. And I can't wait to try to make some of the beef sticks using the same mixture in the future. So there, it just keep filling it, and then everything gets slippery as you get a little bit of that stuff on anything, and it's a matter of just doing the same thing over and over again here to get all the racks filled up and ready to go. So once you do get it filled up, it really does work fantastic. Wish caulking guns were this easy to use. Now, as for the temperature on this unit, I did contact that Big Sky Innovations or Blue Sky Innovations that makes these units, and I'm still waiting to hear back some, but they basically said it sounded like this unit was working right. That's, how they work, and there's no way to adjust the temperature up any higher. So, at this point in time, I'm going to say if you're going to buy this machine just to make jerky with it, it cannot attain the 160 degree temperature that's required by the FDA to kill the bacteria in it. So I'm not going to really recommend it. It would be nice if they just had something in that temperature controller where you could just crank it up a couple more degrees to be safe, but they don't. Plus it just takes hours for this to get up to temperature. So I'm not really happy the way it dried the jerky. We are eating it anyway. We should have heat treated it after it came out of it, but at the time I didn't really understand what the heat should be on it until I started searching online, and then I found out that you can heat treat it, but it's too late when it's already done and cooked. It would just ruin the texture of it. So this is where I stand on it. If you're gonna use it for jerky, to take it out early, and then you're gonna have to go through a whole second step of heat treating, which is not what they advertise it at. So I just thought I'd let everybody know, because actually when I started looking online, I saw a lot of other comments about it not being able to reach temps either. So I got them in the machine, and I turned it on, and here you can see I'm going to set it for 160 degrees. And I started out by setting it for 12 hours. I figured it would take about 10. So I started that up, and everything you can see, it looks good in there. The racks are spaced out a little bit, and the biggest mess is all that greasy stuff to clean up. But this Dawn really does a good job at removing grease. So there it is. 20 minutes later, it's up to 127, and kind of got everything cleaned up, and that drawer is really nice to be able to store everything right away with the unit. There it is. An hour later, it's up to 147 degrees. And then it's still at 147 another 15 minutes later. And then at, a while later, it did get up to 153 degrees here. And then I went back and I tried setting it at 155 to see if that would make a difference in the temperature. But it really didn't. so I went back and I put it at 160 again, and you could see it did hit 158. It would cycle up to 158. The second it hit 158, that fan would start spinning fast, and then it would cycle back down to about 145 to 147. So the thing only hit the 158 for like a second. It would immediately head back down to the cooler temps, and I actually put another thermometer from my smoker in there with a lead to just double check the temps were right. They actually were. They were about 1 to 2 degrees lower than what this machine reads, but you can see it never really did hit 160, and it mostly, even though it was set for 160, it mostly ran in the 140s and 150s. So let's see, this was about 5 hours after I started. I decided to take it out and rotate the trays, just have a look at it, see, if everything was cooking evenly. And you can see here it was cooking everything throughout the whole dehydrator. The trays did not need to be rotated. It was cooking extremely even across the board. Everything was done the same amount. So I just shifted them around a little bit, and then I put a blank tray in the middle there so I could just stick the probe right dead center in the machine and just monitor the next couple hours like that. So I just put an empty tray in here, and I got the probe to this thing. It's got one of the little flat wires on it that's made to go in an oven. So, and this one I have found to be very accurate. So I just closed that in the door like that, and the gasket sealed around it and everything, and stuck it on the side there for the rest of the time to monitor it. So you can see it's set for the 160, and there it is. It's running about 150 there, and it basically bounced up and down, but it rarely hit the 158, and it never once touched 160, which is a safe temperature that FDA says you have to get the meat to in order to consume it after it kill the bacteria in it. In the meantime, my wife's making that dehydrated tomato recipe with our fresh basil, and this time a couple of shrimp we're going to throw in it for dinner tonight, so that was real good. So at the 8-hour mark, it was starting to look pretty much done, and I figured I'd just check it. I don't have a way to probe this because it's so thin now, but I took my infrared thermometer there, and I decided to just kind of run across the board and check a couple pieces of it as they came out. And the surface temperature of it pretty much ranged from like 137.5 up to 146 at the highest, even though it's pretty dry looking and stuff. So I figured I'd give it another hour or two, see if I could get it any warmer, because that's it's really not safe at this point. Hopefully the cure will keep us from getting sick, but so there it is, and I ran it for another hour, and the temperature never went over 150 for the meat itself, so you can see why I don't recommend this machine for jerky. So at that point in time, it was really getting dry, and I didn't want it to get too crispy or anything like that, so I decided to remove it. I should have done additional heat processing at this time, but I really wasn't aware that it had to be done when I did this. I looked it up online later and found out that you should. So what I did is I did what they said in the book. I took it out and wrapped it in paper towels. And the paper towels are just used to remove the any grease that's left on the surface of it. You can see there's some oil that came to the surface when dehydrating. So, I'm just kind of doing what they're saying, just wrapping it up there, trying to keep it all, up against paper towel on both sides to dry it off some. So, in the end, the jerky the house smelled really great. The flavor of the jerky is great, but the only thing questionable about it is if the bacteria in it has been killed. And I'm hoping that the cure that was used in the seasoning mix actually took care of that, but I'm not, really sure. I have no way to check. So now I'm just going to wrap those other 6 rolls up, and just let it sit for an hour and soak up all the grease, and there's still a little bit of oil left on it at the end of the hour, and just gonna wipe them down and have a pair of these kitchen scissors that I've cleaned up, and I'm just going to go down and just snap it into pieces that will fit into the wide mouth pint mason jars here. I figured that would be the easiest way to keep it. And in the end, I wound up with 5 jars. So it turned out that a pound of meat just fit perfectly in each jar when I got them all packed tight. And I will say that this really is good. And then over to that vacuum packing lid thing, packer that I've got for my food saver there. And this really comes in handy for stuff like that. I'm going to just vacuum pack these and keep them in the refrigerator. It says you should be able to keep them 1 to 2 weeks in the refrigerator. And if you want to keep them longer, you should freeze them. So for now, I'm just going to, I'm hoping we'll eat these in 2 weeks. And I did a real good jar, so, there's my jerky. So in the end, the jerky actually was excellent flavor and everything. I will use this Cabelas mix over. The only really big disappointment was that the this machine could not, heat to the 160 or get the meat up to the 160 that the FDA requires for it to be, bacteria free. So that's a really big disappointment in this machine. And there it is right there, the next batch getting ready to go into jars. Just a little bit different programming in the temperature controller and maybe a 5-degree higher setting like the Excalibur does. This could have been a really great machine for jerky, but like I said, it just doesn't get as hot as the Excaliburs do. So there's the next 4. I got everything really packed in there tight, and it's time to just seal the lids on there. Now that little, vacuum packer thing for the lids has really worked good, and it's really reliable. I've really had, no problems at all with the seals or anything that it made. The biggest problem seems to be with my machine. Sometimes it just doesn't release the vacuum. You don't hear the valve release in there, and you got to pull that out to get the lid off. And it just doesn't seem to shut off when it gets up to vacuum. You can just let that pump run until it almost, sounds like it's burning up. So, and I have to turn it on and off, and I just have to, watch when it doesn't release the vacuum. Well, at least it's seen a ton of use, and it's getting old, so, that could be the issue with it. But it really does a good job at sealing everything up here, and, hopefully this will help these jars stay fresher longer. And there they are, all done and ready to be put away. In the end, the jerky all came out really good. The only thing is, like I said, I wish it was just heated up to 160 degrees so I knew it was safe to eat. And here's that pot of chili I made today, and my wife spent the last week making some sourdough French loaves. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.